right, thanks, Rob. We'll go ahead and call the March 31st FARGODOME Authority meeting to order. Thanks everyone for joining us over phone. Hope everyone is well. First order of business will be approve the agenda, which is in front of you.
Good afternoon.
That sounded like Dan Armbrust.
To approve the agenda. This is Dan Armbrust. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Dan.
Hey, Dan. All right, we have a first from Rick to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
David will second. David beat you.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Next would be to approve the minutes from the February 25th meeting. Should be on page 1 of your packet.
This is Mike. I'll make the motion.
Thanks, Mike. Motion from Mike.
Dan will second.
Second from Dan. Thank you. All those in favor for approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Same sign. All right, minutes are approved. Is there any old business? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business and start with the general manager's report with Rob Sobola.
All right, thanks, Troy, and thank you to everybody for being able to get on the call. Hopefully everybody is staying safe and following the proper rules that I think I get bombarded with every at least 30 minutes online or somewhere else. So we'll start with the financials, page 3 of your packet. This is through the month of February. So on the left-hand side, February, we had 13 events compared to a budget of 18 with attendance. That's a typo.
Oh, that is a typo.
However, so we had total event income for the month of February of $553,000 compared to a budget of $538,000. And we had indirect expenses for the month of $343,800, or about $28,000 below the budgeted number of $317,700. So we had a net surplus for the month of February of just over $373,300, which is $55,000 plus higher than our budget of $317,500. On the event side, the biggest variance was the concert, the Jason Aldean concert. Good attendance, very high per caps for food and beverage. We were about $100,000 over budget on that. On the theater side, An American in Paris was an overall loss with low attendance, and then Once was also budgeted in there, and that was canceled due to the routing and the show actually pulled off of the circuit. So we were $42,000 under budget there. Trade shows, $24,000 under budget. The career
Corn and soybean.
The corn and soybean expo was consistent with budget, along with the home and garden show. Was strong attendance and ancillary, but we had a 2-day show that didn't occur that was budgeted, and that was that Dakota Plains gun show that they decided not to. They could not meet the $2 million insurance requirement, so they decided not to happen. Amateur sports, the state wrestling was consistent with budget, and then convention miscellaneous with the Kiwanis Pancake Carnival and NDSU Spring Career Fair were also consistent with budget, and motorsports was slightly below budget. Per caps were a little bit lower, but attendance was good. And then the meeting room events was slower in the meeting rooms. However, the arena itself was quite busy. On the expense side, we were $27,000 below budget, mainly with full-time labor at $6,000 below budget due to some timing of the new staff that was being hired for the 2020 budget. We do have the operations engineer 3 position. That position did start here 2 weeks ago. We're still working with the food and beverage, catering, and suite manager. And then the operations department was about $29,500 below budget. Steam heating, cooling management, along with snow removal were below budget, and some timing on some other purchases. Any questions on the month of February purchases or financials? These are the year-to-date. It's a very big month. It was very, very busy, yes.
I mean, geez, that was a huge number for him.
Yeah, that was a good night all around. Busy. So year-to-date then for the 2 months, we've had total event income of about just over $661,000. Or about $10,000 above the budget of $651,000, and we've had indirect expenses of $639,000, or $40,000 under the budgeted number of $679,000. Sorry. So we have a net surplus through February of $330,800, which is $67,000 plus to the favorable over a budget of $263,400. Not a lot has changed on with only 2 events, 2 months, so I'm not going to go through the events there. Any questions on the financials as presented?
Ms. Blake, I'll make a motion to approve the February month-to-date and year-to-date financials as presented.
This is David. I will second that.
Motion from Blake, second from David, to approve the financials. Roll call.
Hey, can you guys hear me? Mike said he was having a little problem at the beginning.
I'll call the roll. You're coming across like breaking up. So Troy.
Okay. Sounds good.
Blake.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Rick.
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
And Nancy, you are not on, correct? All right. Just real briefly, as I said, we're trying to get this meeting done in 30 minutes so that the city can carry the governor's daily press conference. Just a review of current events. If you have questions on this, please feel free to call me, but obviously, you probably read in the media, the FARGODOME remains closed to the public. We are operating with our receiving security entrance door open in the loading dock on the northwest corner for any scheduled deliveries, daily mail, things such as that. That is staffed during normal business hours, 8 to 4:30 p.m. We also have our operations employees in the building, monitoring building systems and doing different things. We've got a couple of our food and beverage people are also in the building, full-time wise, starting to look at different things. And then in the administration office, several of us to a couple of us are here, but we also monitor the main telephone line during normal business hours as well. Most people were working remotely the last earlier or last week. However, some of them have completed most of the items they can do remotely, so we are practicing our social distancing. Obviously, most of us are in our separate offices, so we're able to do that, or it's an 80,000 square foot floor, so the 6-foot distancing really isn't much of an issue with that, so we continue there. As far as the events for March and April and into May, we did obviously have the Sportsman Show, and we had most of the State A combined Class A basketball. We had all-day Thursday events, which were the girls' quarterfinals, and then they stopped halfway through Friday afternoon. We had finished the boys' consolation. So we're working through that. The rodeo that was scheduled for March canceled, and then the Shrine Circus that was also scheduled for March postponed at first, but it ultimately has canceled as well, so those two will not be made up. The Mercy Me concert originally scheduled for April 5th has been postponed to November 15th, and the Share concert originally scheduled for April 11th has been postponed to September 26th. So those two concerts will still happen in the 2020 calendar year. Some non-revenue events for us that have canceled. The Coaches Clinic, NDSU Coaches Clinic, scheduled for the first weekend in April, which actually is this weekend coming up, did cancel, along with the NDSU Spring Games scheduled for April 24th. The Fargo Marathon, what was scheduled for the second weekend in May, has currently postponed to August 29th. However, due to some potential turf work, we're not sure if that will be at FARGODOME or not, but that is basically a non-revenue producing. We've got a couple of weeks or months to figure that out. NDSU commencement scheduled for the third weekend in May has canceled, and it is yet to be determined. No announcement has been made yet regarding Fargo graduation, which would be the last weekend, Sunday, May 31st. We had other event that was not budgeted through our 2020 operating budget, but it was essentially a non-revenue, was a Dakota Strike, which was a military, through the state of North Dakota, a military job fair, if you will. That was scheduled for April 8th. That is not happening. So that's kind of the update as of now. Currently, any of the other dates that are currently scheduled and announced are still, at this time, scheduled to go on. However, we do continue to monitor all the activity and the updates and things such as that to make sure we're doing the best for the building as well as for the greater good or the event that is going on. Susan and I have started looking at some projections based on year to date, what events happened through March, without having the rest of the March events, without having the April events, without having some of the May events. But those are based on known data. We don't have enough data to be able to start adjusting our indirects, such as janitorial supplies, steam usage, electrical usage, cost of goods sold for food and beverage. Obviously, we really only purchase those items when we have events. So without events, that's kept to a minimum, and we'll be kind of watching the last half of March and obviously April for operating expenses, whether it be steam heating, cooling, different things such as that, to see how that has an effect on our overall budget. So at this time, I would not be able to give with any confidence any predictions of what the year could end up looking like, but safe to say it'll probably be a variance from the budget. Any questions on that? And just another update, Susan did receive some information from David Hunter from the North Dakota State Investment Board. Obviously, the message is stay the course. We had some interesting slides, interesting feedback. There has been a decline in the surplus, but frankly, it was less than I thought it was right now. But we're kind of watching that, and again, don't really have a great feedback on that. I think if the year had ended last week, middle of last week, there might have been about a 9% decrease, which still is above 40 million, so that's positive. But as the market is going to be very shaky here, I think, particularly, those of you who watch that on a regular basis are very aware of that. So we continue to monitor all of that activity as well.
Hey, Rod, did you say that you're able to do any significant maintenance work now during this downtime that you wouldn't have been able to do otherwise?
That is a discussion that we're looking at doing. However, there is an ongoing discussion at the city administration or through the city commission level regarding just what will be spent and how it should be spent. So we're kind of reacting and dealing with that on a daily basis. So that was the plan originally. Some of that has been scaled back yet, since we're still in the very infancy of what is going on and learning things every day. So we do have a list already put together and some thoughts that we're going to hopefully be able to accomplish, but we also need to be prudent and follow directives both from the FARGODOME Authority in our situation as well as the city commission and or city administration.
Thanks.
All right, if there are no questions for Rob, we'll move on to committee reports, which we didn't have one, so skip over that to capital reallocation request, item C.
All right, in the last 2 pages of your packet, 14 and 15, there was a memo that I had written out regarding a capital reallocation request. It is to repair or actually replace the heating pump, and it's currently the backup heating pump for the heating system here at FARGODOME. This is an original pump. When this was put into the budget as the FD 2002 pump motor replacement, back in April of 2019, it was felt that we could just get by with being able to replace just the pump. So that's why that number went in at a budget of about approximately $45,000. However, as they were starting to dig into it more, that is an original pump, so circa 1991, 92, excuse me. And so that type of pump was no longer available for replacement. The pump that could be found that would work had different pipe sizing to match up with both the intake and output piping of the pump, along with some changes to the electrical requirements. So it got a little bit more advanced than originally thought through the different pipe size changes, insulation, electrical work, demo of the existing pipe, so on and so forth. As mentioned, the estimate from JPK was at approximately $88,000. That was prior to bidding, so that was in January. It is obviously an important piece of equipment, so we moved forward with it. The low bid that came in of the 3 contractors was Dakota Plains Mechanical at $98,698. That is about 12% above the budget. However, that is within the range of quote-unquote acceptability by City of Fargo standards. Compared to the other budgets, we did look at it, had a conversation with JPK as well as the electrical engineering firm they were working with, felt the conditions were such that rebidding it would not really does not have much chance of reducing the cost of the bids. In fact, could go the other way. We only had 3 contractors that were interested in the project. We were able to find the additional dollars, as I pointed out in the memo, and it is a bit of a time pressure to get it done, since we do want to have backup heating if our main pump goes down, and since we'll need that come fall. So I've laid out the reallocation request to fully fund the project, where we would take the remaining balance of FD 2001, the chiller overhaul. That project's complete, with a remaining balance of $29.31. The 2019 budgeted unallocated remaining balance of $56.70, along with the remaining project balance of the switchgear full service FD 1809. That project is also done, of $14,972. The project balance of FD 1810 building electrical flash study of $25,000. It's been determined, based on the fact that that's been on the budget for 2 years, that maybe it's not as important as it initially was, and been moved down the priority list. So taking that, and then the additional $15,000 out of the 1614 video board fund. Taking that little over $63,500, combining it with the existing remaining budget of just over $40,000, creates a new project budget of $103,600, which allows for a little less than 5% contingency should something else go on there. Anybody have any questions on that, or the reasoning of the rationale? Questions, comments? If none, I would request a motion to reallocate those funds as presented via that memo on page 14.
This is David, so moved.
Dan, I'll make a motion.
David with the first, Dan with the second.
I'll second, yep.
Thank you. Roll call.
So we'll do roll call. We'll start with Troy,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
and Nancy, I'm assuming you did not join? Okay.
All right, thank you, Rob. Are there any additional items? All right, hearing none, we will adjourn. And again, thank you everybody for joining over the phone. And